So we had gotten into a Discord call, and we started our dev commentary. And it wasn't until I was done with the recording and I sent the group away that I realized OBS wasn't recording audio. So that's my fault. I'm running back over this in Premiere. We wanted to give an example of a run through of our level. Here's an example of our first cinematic. What you're not going to hear, unfortunately, is that this next cinematic cue, there is also an audio cue. There are several audio cues through the level, giving the player a little bit of exposition as to what their circumstances, the voice saying things like, get back in your pod, what are you doing out? I assure you there's nothing out there for you. Just, giving you the idea that you need to escape because scary voice in the head is telling you not to escape while he's giving you words of encouragement to not escape. So here you saw him run through the room with the traps. I didn't demonstrate the death, which I should have done, but there's one of our mechanics for opening the door. As soon as we step forward, there's another cinematic here. The voice cue saying turn back, there's nothing out there. As we get to the top, you're going to get two more cinematic cues. There were two more voice cues. Again, giving a hint of you can figure out technology. Can you figure out the significance of these barrels? The barrels are in four groups, different numbers in each group. Those numbers are supposed to be indicative of a passcode for a keypad that we have coded. Here I am just showing where the different piles of the buckets are. And then we'll go over and you'll get to see how the door mechanic works. And then we will quickly but effectively run through the actual blueprints. So here's our keypad and door. It took a little bit to load because of the assets, but here it is. We hit the thing, and there it is. So there were 4 barrels, 3 barrels, 3 barrels, and 6 barrels. That was our code. So here's an example of where Crunch kind of made a little bit of a rough edge. We couldn't put anything to actually end the game, like a widget saying congratulations you escaped, anything of this along those lines. Here's me demonstrating an aerial view of the level. You can see some of those collision boxes for our voice cues and whatnot. Here's another view of the character, trying to show just some of the parts in our level. In just a moment, you will see that I will open a content drawer and we'll start going over our blueprints. I'm going to let the recording go here. It's going to be some silence. I will probably just throw a little music track on so it's not dead silent while you're watching the rest of it. But this is our project. This was Sebastian, Leif, and I. Our fourth group member didn't do anything, didn't offer to do anything, and none of us were really interested in trying to ask him for help. So we just knocked it out ourselves. That said, I'm extremely proud of Leif and Sebastian. They did an incredible job. They did a lot of the blueprints. There were some blueprints that we had done together. We worked on together, like this key, the door that the key unlocked, the pad that opened the gate. We had worked on that. Here is Leif's code for the trap. I believe. No, this is the key. Excuse me. Eventually, we're going to show the blueprint for the trap. That was a little bit difficult because we had to implement the death, the delay, and the reset for the level. But Leif did a really good job with that. Um, Here's a couple examples of the blueprints from the trap that I had mentioned. This was real difficult. We had some interesting brainstorming to do, and also some great input from the master class. The postgrad class. Um, it was a great help. It was a cumulative effort. Pretty soon here, we're going to jump in and look at Sebastian's work on that keypad and the door that it was attached to. It looks the most impressive because of blueprints, but I'm still absolutely chuffed at how good of a job he did with our cinematics and the audio cues. Um, it, in the project prior to this, I had figured out a little bit of the groundwork for the cinematics in my efforts to create a portal. I had to tinker around a little bit with the camera, and Sebastian intuitively knew that that was the key to us adding our cinematics and making this run the way we did. And it just he took fire and made a combustion engine metaphorically, and I'm so impressed. Here is, let's see, it looks like our audio cues, and then above it is the video cues. The blueprint that was on just a second ago was the door and its interactivity with pressing E to bring up the widget for the keypad. So a lot of the blueprints are duplicates. They're just linked to different cinematic files and audio files. But here's all of that. Showing it's not live in the game because again crunch. There's some rough edges, but in order to make a product to submit, I killed the audio levels for the level music so that the audio cues would come through clearly. I just didn't have time to balance them. More time would have been a smoother project, but here we are. So next, we're getting ready to look at the keypad widget and the blueprints that went into the keypad widget. This is another example of Sebastian taking a smaller idea and blowing it up into something way bigger. We had done a small workshop on widgets, and this is what he ended up coming up with just one minor lesson. Absolutely incredible. This is him going through structuring and building the widget so it looks the way it does. And like I said, shortly we're about to look at the blueprint so you can see how he gave it life. And there's that terrifying blueprint. We go from top to bottom. He indicates how each one of these is essentially the same exact blueprint, just corresponding to a different number, or excuse me, button. Um, this took probably the most time to get built and implemented, and I think it really added a lot to the interactivity of our game. Um, Building off of the cool story and world that we built with just a couple cinematics and a couple audio cues. I uh, I wish that the audio recorded in OBS when I was doing this, so it wasn't just me trying to cover up the holes, but you would be able to listen to Leif, Sebastian, and myself discuss our pride in this project, our surprise because ultimately this took us 3 weeks, 6 days out of those 3 weeks, and some hours individually ourselves outside of class, and we ended up making this. It's not big or compatible or comparable to anything in the industry currently, but I went from the beginning of this class not thinking I knew how to make a video game ever and that I could never learn, and here we are with our product. Sebastian was really happy with it, Life was really happy with it, our classmates were impressed, and we stumped Dishwan, our professor, several times, and I'm pretty stoked about that as well. uh, but ultimately, the class was an incredible experience. Um, and yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and throw that screenshot in here and give proof that we did have each of us in doing the dev commentary. It's just a technical fall through on my part. I didn't double check settings. and they've already gone on their way. We've ended the call. It's summer weekend, beginning of summer weekend. But anyways, thank you for checking out our game dev commentary. Have a great day.